Welcome back to yet another presentation on course learning outcome assessment. That is as to how we try to assess whether the learning outcomes specified, whether they are attained or not, based on the results of examinations and what kind of computations need to be done, and so on and so forth. Okay, let us try to see this kind of block diagram to give us a bird's eye view of what we are doing. Okay, whenever you have a course beginning, you set targets for that course. These targets will be in terms of course outcomes. Let us say for a particular course you have 3 outcomes, CO1, 2, 3. There may be more or less outcomes depending on the course we are talking about. So we'll consider one course offered in one academic year and which has 3 outcomes. We will set a target that the attainment value for CO1 should be 1.25, 2 it should be CO2 it should be 2, and CO3 is 2.5. Some kind of meaningful targets. How we get these numbers and what kind of computation is needed, we will see in subsequent slides. Okay, these targets are set, the coursework goes, results come in, analysis is done, and you have attainment values. Okay, what kind of level CO1 is reached, what is the level of attainment of CO2 and CO3. These two are combined with a positive sign for a target and a negative sign for attainment, that is target minus attainment. Ideally we would want this attainment value to be greater than or equal to this target. We want to have attainment value of CO1 to be at least 1.25. If it is greater, fine, we have achieved more than what is our target. If it is less, we need to have some corrective action. Okay, so this signal which is coming out here, we call it deviation. Deviation between target and attainment. Okay, depending on the magnitude of the deviation and sign of the deviation, we have some corrective action into our curriculum, and so we call the signal curricular component. So this curricular component is given to students, okay, with whatever corrective action. This corrective action could be in terms of arranging additional guest lectures, expert lectures, or taking them to a field trip, or showing them 3D animations, or giving them more tutorials, more mentorship, whatever corrective action. When this curricular component is given to students, and when students have examinations, you have results. These results are analyzed, okay, and the result of analysis is the attainment. Our focus in this is this analysis. So during this presentation, we'll talk a little bit of what is this analysis process and what kind of data we keep. In specific, we are interested in a faculty course assessment report. This faculty course assessment report is developed for each course during each academic year. This may appear to be a very cumbersome, tedious task, but if you make it a habit of developing this immediately after each exam and tabulate the scores in a systematic way, it becomes a second nature to us. Okay, with this idea and knowledge that we are interested in developing a full faculty course assessment report by performing analysis, this particular block in the loop diagram, in the block diagram, we will try to go into the presentation itself. Okay, and when we go in there, we'll see that the desire to know is far more important than all the performance measures. Okay, if at the end of the course a student gains a deep desire to know, a curiosity to learn the unknown component, that is, I think, the best performance measure of a course. Then you may ask me the question, then why we are doing all this complicated process? There are two reasons for that. Reason one, we are going for NBA accreditation, and the accreditation evaluators, they need number crunching. They want to see everything in terms of numbers and not subjective thing. And a second reason is the desire to know is subjective. You cannot compare two institutes or two courses based on subjective comparison. That is the reason why we are looking into these measures. Okay, with that we'll note the prerequisites of watching this video. It is assumed that you have watched the earlier video on writing the course outcomes, that you have studied a couple of hours on related material so that you are familiar with this, and you have written course outcome of the courses you have handled, mapped POs, and noted them down into an Excel sheet presented at the end of the previous presentation, and discussed about this exercise of writing course outcome with your colleagues. Okay, the idea is that when you discuss something you have done with others, they will comment on it and you will comment on their work, and understanding of both persons is in general gets deeper and deeper. Okay, this is the prerequisites, and we put the standard disclaimer that we need to improve what is presented here through group work. So if you have any questions, please do get in touch with me. See me, call me, SMS me, or email me. Okay, the outcomes of this presentation include the three items shown here. You'll be able to illustrate concerned key ideas, you'll identify what data is required for assessment, perform assessment using the tool provided. Okay, the outline of the presentation includes first few slides define some terms that you may come across, what data is needed for assessment, what kind of tabulation is needed, okay, for exam scores, attainment levels, and a few concrete things that we need to do while we fill self-assessment report. We'll spend quite a bit of time on tabulation of exam scores and kind of attainment values. We define and we show how they are computed and so on and so forth. Okay. Oops, I forgot to show this previous slide. My photo covered it, so I thought I will put this slide for a second. Okay, and then we'll come to the first term, that is student learning outcome. Okay, it describes what a student is expected to learn and demonstrate, which include attitude, skill, and knowledge. Okay, the second term we define is dimensions. Okay, dimensions are key aspects of outcome based on which students will be evaluated. For example, in an engineering graphics course, the ability to draw freehand curves, okay, is one important aspect. The ability to decide on the scale for a given problem, that is another key aspect, that is another dimension. The ability to interpret the three views, front view, top view, side view, is another key aspect in the case of engineering graphics course. Similarly, in different courses you have different key aspects. Okay. Assessment method is the general approach, whether you have given objective type or essay type or presentation, dissertation, or whether it is end semester exam or whether it is assignment or mid and so on. depending on the assessment method, we may assign a weight to the scores obtained in that particular exam. Okay. Similarly, instrument is the actual product that is handed to the student. It may be a question paper, project outline statement, or presentation outline, and so on and so forth. Another important term that you may come across is rubric. This rubric is very relevant in situations where you have more than one criterion to evaluate the student's performance. For example, in a project work, you may evaluate the student based on his presentation skill, the depth of his understanding, the type of report that he has generated, whether he has any publications, and so on and so forth. But in the simple case of our examinations of theory subjects, it may basically be a scheme of evaluation. This rubric can be compared to a scheme of evaluation. And another important term is data breakout variables. That will give composition of the class, whether all the students are very bright guys or some of them need additional help, and so on and so forth. Another important term is portfolio. Portfolio indicates all the things that a student can show that he has done. For an engineering drawing course, portfolio is a compilation of all the drawing sheets he has prepared. For a workshop course, it is a set of jobs that he has fabricated. Okay, for a lab course, it is his laboratory record, and so on and so forth. With this, we'll go into the next item of presentation. What kind of data is needed for assessment? Okay. We may need, depending on the course, particular course, okay, exam or tutorial questions, assignments you have given, what kind of laboratory evaluation, what kind of project evaluation, in general, including any other student portfolios. Okay, this data we need to collect for each exam, each course of each academic year. For example, in the academic year 2014-15, you taught one course, let us say kinematics of machinery. Okay, during that year 2014-15, you taught kinematics of machine. You may have several exams. You may have a mid 1 exam, mid 2 exam, mid 3 exam. You have assignments given, you have tutorials, and you may have many other things like project work and so on. So during the year 2014, whatever happened, whatever exam, all that scores you need to tabulate. Okay, and you also need to have the question papers and answer scripts. Okay, this is a very Herculean task. Okay, but one that we need to undertake compulsorily. Okay, from the question papers corresponding to each question, identify what is the course outcome that is being checked as a part of the question, and also identify what is the program outcome. Identify what are the maximum marks allotted for that question. Some questions have 8 marks maximum, some questions may have 10 marks maximum, and so on. Okay, and then list marks secured by each student for each question. Okay, that we need to do it. We need to do that and tabulate these exam scores in a meaningful way. Okay, we'll try to show one example in the subsequent slide. Okay, we need to systematically arrange, use meaningful nomenclature for naming the Excel file, and a small VB application is written. Let me pull up that sheet. That sheet is shown over here. You can carefully note the name of the Excel file given here. 2014-15 is the academic year. First year, second semester, mechanical engineering section A. This EM is for engineering mechanics and FCAR. If you use such a nomenclature, just by looking at the name of the file, you'll be able to find out what course it pertains to and what academic year it pertains to. Okay, this file, as it happens, when you open this file, you will see a security warning. Okay, so you click on this options and say enable this content and okay it. Okay, depending on the security level on your system, it may ask that question. Just enable the content. Click on enable and enable the content. If you look at this Excel spreadsheet, you have a title given on columns E and I, spanning across columns E and I on column 1. Okay, as a general rule, do not touch parts of the spreadsheet which you don't have a solid reason to modify. In cell A2, column A, row 2, include the typing subject code, and then B2 you have include subject code, and then B3 the name of the subject, the heading subject name, then A4 year and semester, B4 the details, and then the academic year title, faculty and name of the faculty. Follow the rows and columns. Okay, similarly the other thing here is a number 40% cutoff. In the process of developing the attainment values, we'll be using a number which we call threshold value. Okay, we'll be computing number of students who secured more than 40%. If you keep the number 40 here, it will compute for more than 40%. If you keep the number 50 here, it will compute the number of students who scored more than 50%, and so on and so forth. In writing the individual values, you will indicate alphabetical codes. The alphabetical code N, as shown here, indicates that the student is present for the exam but not attempted it. If you see a letter A, it means the student is absent for the examination. And then your actual admission numbers of the student, they need to be entered in column A. From rows 15 onwards, you'll start entering the admission numbers of each student. Okay, you'll have as many rows here as there are number of students. For example, in this case, it went to row 74. The next row in column A, put the letter AAA. Okay, 3 A's. Okay, this will indicate that the sheet needs to compute up to 75. The little program I developed, which I'm going to show, will understand. Okay, and then in C11, cell C11 onwards, in successive columns, you have an indicator for question. For example, this M1 Q1 indicates mid 1 question 1, mid 1 question 2, mid 1 question 5, mid 2 question 2, and so on. As many types of questions you have. Assignment 1 question 2, assignment 1 question 5. Okay, this end semester question 1, end semester question 2, end semester question 3. Okay, here is what you see. All these numbers are the same. Okay, 84, 84, 84, 42, 42, 42. The reason why I did that is typically end semester answer scripts are not given back to us. Because they are not given back to us, all the information we have is only the total marks. So if we have three course outcomes to that, CO1, CO2, CO3, okay, that's a mistake, CO3. If you have three outcomes, you assume that each outcome got a score of 84. Maximum marks is 84. Let us say for an end semester examination, you'll assume that all the outcomes are satisfied to that effect. If a student scores 42 marks, for CO1 you put 42, for CO2 you put 42, for CO3 you put 42. So where you don't have individual marks, put the COs and assume they're all equally attained. So if you see from columns C11 till column T11, you have question description, which mid and which question. When once you have entered, club all the M1 on the top here and merge the cells. Similarly for mid 2, merge the cells. For assignment 1, merge the cells. For end semester, merge the cells. So you got a nice little setup. And then in the next row here, that is C12, you have program outcome which this question M1 Q1 addresses. Similarly, PO3 is what question M1 Q4 is about. Then this M2 Q2 addresses PO2. Then similarly this A1 Q5 addresses PO2, and so on. So the next row is POs. The next row is course outcomes. Okay, once you put these headings, then you will enter these scores. Okay, this 6 here is the marks for mid 1 question 1. 8 here is the marks for mid 1 question 2. Okay, 8 is the number for mid 2 question 2, and so on. You populate this row. Then you fill in all the other numbers here. Okay, so the boundary is AAA in the last row, and the boundary for these courses is you put a number 99 in the last column of row 14. Okay, when once you do that, your data entry is done. Okay, then if you carefully see, there are two tabs in this sheet. One is the course scores data, which you have seen, and another one is program outcome list for that particular course. Okay, start entering POs in column A from row 1 till 12 or 13, whatever, and then write the particular PO value. Okay, so you have two tabs. And then I have developed a small VBA application, Visual Basic Application, that will take in this data on course scores and program outcomes and computes the attainment values. Okay, I'll click on it and you will see another sheet being created. Okay, that sheet is DVR course evaluation. Okay, it computes several individual elements. Okay, let me delete all that. We'll come back to this sheet, but come here and see what it has done at the bottom of the data. It has computed several things. Number of students who has attempted each question. Okay, the number of students who got greater than 40%. This number 40 comes from the 40 that you have entered here. Okay, if you enter 50, for example, here, it will compute number of students who got greater than 50%. This percentage of students who got greater than 40, so 18 by 57 is 32%, 24 by 52, 46%, and so on and so forth. You have two methods of attainment calculation, method 1 and method 2. Okay, for method 1 it will use this percentage. If this number is, let us say, greater than 80, you will enter an attainment value of 3. If the number is between 70 and 80, you will enter a number 2. If it is between 60 and 70, your attainment is 1. That is attainment calculation using method 1. All these are less than 60, so you have given 0, 0, 0. Okay. The second one is percentage of students who got score more than the average. So it will compute the average of average scores of this test and compute percentage of students who got here. For question 1, 56% got more than average. Here you have 53% greater than average. Okay, depending on that you have attainment method 2. If it is between 70 and 80, you give an attainment value of 2. If it is less than 60 but greater than 40, you give attainment 1. For all the others you put 0. Okay, so using method 1 you have attainments, you have method 2 you have attainments. Okay, the larger of these two we can take as attainment value, that is 0 and 0, it is 0. You have 2 and 2, it is 2. Then you have 3 and 2. Okay, we have taken smaller of these two. Okay, smaller of these two as the net attainment. Okay, so all that number crunching is done by little application that is associated with this button, generate assessment. Then if you come into this DVR course outcome, it will give a nice template here as shown here, describing the course. It will list what is the net attainment. CO1 it attained 1.25, CO2 it is 0.8, CO3 it is 1. It will list what are the corresponding program outcomes and give a summary. Okay, a summary here. Okay, attempted students got 14 and attainment value corresponding mapped COs, and it will give a pie chart in terms of PO1, PO2, PO3 attainments and a summary. CO1 is achieved through these questions, these are the levels and this is the average and it corresponds to PO1. CO2 is attained through these questions. Okay, these are the attainments in individual questions, this is the average and this corresponds to PO2. CO3 is measured using these questions, these are the questions that pertain to CO3 and these are the scores, this is the average and it corresponds to PO3. All this to make it uniform and easy on us, I made a kind of an application, but that needs specific arrangement. Your admission numbers need to start in A15 and go successively down. These labels CO1, MO1, etc. should be in column C starting from row 11. You should have a number 99 to indicate the column, last column. You should have this letter AAA to indicate last row. You take in all this data and put it into a faculty course assessment report. Okay, so this is what we have seen about the VBA and application. Okay, and these data, all this data that you have in this Excel sheet, you will put it into a Word document. Okay, as shown here. Okay, I will email this document to you and follow exactly the same one to reduce the pain of making corrections. Okay, so this is the template into which you can enter the appropriate values here: subject code, subject, program, academic year, section, name of the faculty, and so on. And then this table which shows which outcomes are mapped. For example, for the engineering mechanics course I have done, we are mapping CO1, CO2, CO3 to PO1, PO2, PO3. And this nice little table here is obtained from the Excel sheet. If you look at this DVR course, you have CO1 and these questions. Okay, these cells are copied in here. If you take a printout and compare both of them, it will be very clear to you. And at the end of this table, it clearly shows the average score and whether the outcome is satisfied. Because the minimum level we specified for each PO is 2, not satisfied, not satisfied, not satisfied. Okay, if you have attainment for PO1 to be 1, okay, this 1.25 is satisfied, this 1 is satisfied. So for the particular target we specified here in this case as an example, you specified 2 as the target value. And then you'll write a brief comment about what is this subject about. Okay, and then because our outcome is not satisfied, minimum level is 2, you got only 1.25, it is not satisfied. Minimum level required is 2 and you got only 1.8, not satisfied. Minimum level required is 2 and you got only 1, not satisfied. Okay, it's not satisfied. In this case, you specified all the POs to be a minimum threshold value of 2. But in another different course, you may have one minimum attainment for PO1, different one for PO2, and a different value for PO3. In any case, when the targets are not met, okay, you need to have what recommendations that are to be undertaken for improvement. Again, I gave all these hypothetical, okay, some of the suggestions, okay, what needs to be done. In your course, you need to give similar suggestions, okay, and you need to list all the question papers below. So when you do that, your course question papers for all these examinations, that is mid 1, mid 2, mid 3, assignment 1 and semester question paper. When you have included and made this document, this completes faculty course assessment report. Okay, again I would encourage you to use a consistent nomenclature for naming the files. 2014-15 is the academic year, first mechanical, section A, engineering mechanics, FCAR. Okay, if you use such a nomenclature, decide one for the department and use it consistently. That way it will be very clear. Just by looking at the name of the file, you will know what that file is talking about. Okay, so I guess this is clear. If you have any questions, you can ask me later. Because it is recorded in video, you can go back and see it once again. That's the reason why I just rushed through it. Okay, we said there are two methods, method 1 and method 2. In method 1, okay, you define levels. 60% is one level, 70% is one level, 80% is one level, more than the threshold. 60% is the threshold here. 60%, 60%, 60%. If 60% of the students get more than 60%, you will say attainment level 1 and give a score 1. If 70% of the students get more than 60%, your attainment level 2 and you give a score of 2. Similarly, for 80%, you give it a level 3. Okay, the 60% which we used here all through in the three cases is called the threshold percentage, and it is this threshold percentage that we have included in the cell J3. For method 2, we use average marks. Okay, so this method 1 is absolute scoring. This method 2 is relative to the average. If 60% students score more than average marks, given as attainment value of 1. If 70% students score more than the average value, given attainment score of 2. Similarly, for 80%, give a score of 3. With that, you see, we can see that different weights may be attached to different scores. Okay, for example, let us say CO1 attainment is 2 through mid-examination and CO1 attainment is 1 through assignment. Okay, you can give different weights. Okay, to make our life simpler, I won't suggest doing this. It will complicate the matters too much. For now, we'll go with equal weightages, but in general, be aware that different weightages may be given to different scores. Then your net attainment is 0.8 multiplied by 2 and 0.5 multiplied by 1, and you have a score of 2.1. You need to check this. I don't know whether I did it right. 0.8 multiplied by 2 plus 0.2 multiplied by 1. I made a mistake here. Please make a correction there. And we have already seen this. FCAR is a systematic report. We have seen how that Word document is built. And FCR lists the attainment values of POs. FCR also lists how each PO is attained through COs. And if targets are not achieved, we need to list corrective actions. So if you have the FCAR of the same subject in 2 successive semesters, in semester 1 you have recommended something, and in the subsequent next time the course is taught, those recommendations one needs to incorporate and then measure what is the attainment levels. Okay, it kind of indicates the progression in which the course content and content delivery is improved. That succession of improvement can be seen. And as a general rule, if target is achieved, then all the course program is expected to set higher targets. If the targets are not achieved, we should indicate what are the corrective actions. Okay, and the subsequent slide shows what next. This is very voluminous, but one that needs to be done. Okay, research on internet, spend at least 1 hour reading on CO assessment and attainment. Each faculty member needs to do it compulsorily. Watch this video and read about 1 hour, because we don't want to give an impression that only some teachers know about it and others do not know. Spend at least 1 hour and in a departmental meeting discuss about the learning. Let someone present something about the CO assessment and then others contribute. Okay, the group work should be more than the sum of individuals. That is when we say we have achieved synergy. The second task is collect, tabulate data and calculate the CO for each course handled for past 3 years. This is a Herculean task but not impossible. I've seen it being done in a very short time. If all the faculty members take interest and spend maybe 2 hours a day, you can complete the work relatively in maybe 2-3 days. Okay, and then you need to list actions that need to be initiated to achieve target attainment values in case they are not achieved, and prepare FCAR for each course during each academic year. That is, if you have taught engineering mechanics during 2014, 15 and 16, 3 consecutive years, you have FCAR for 14, 15, 15, 16 and 16, 17. But of course in the reverse direction, 2015, 16, 14, 15 and 13, 14. 3 reports. A similar thing needs to be done for each course. Okay, I think this is pretty much heavy stuff that we have covered. I request and encourage each and everyone to go through the presentation very minutely, and if you see anything wrong, or if you see there is something that is missing, or if you see something that needs to be improved, please do let me know. That will be a great help to me. Okay, let us practice synergy. Thanks a lot for being patient with me, and have a great day. Thanks.